Welcome back, y'all. This is part two of Boundaries. I watched some of the playback from the last one. Boy, I was really passionate. I promise you, I'm not an aggressive person, but I was really passionate about this. One of the Let me just say this. Let me introduce myself, y'all. I didn't went and got in. My name is Dr. Samaria Colbert. Of course, I'm the founder of Kingdom Creative Counseling. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm a published author. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a woman who loves God, and I give you faith-based principles to bring about lasting change. So we're going to talk about part two, and we're going to continue on with this topic. If there's a topic that you want me to address, I see so many people from so many walks of life and so many different issues. It's just like, I just want to be of service. And so if there's something that I can say or talk about, if it's not in my realm of expertise or training, then I'll of course let you know that and give you some resources. But you're more than welcome to leave some comments below. So we're gonna talk about boundaries part two, and I shared some personal information. And the only reason I shared this personal information was to give you context and to know that even though those of us who are in the field, those of us who we're human beings at the end of the day, and so I've had to learn to practice what I preach. One of the most profound things in my life that has helped transform my life was when I started setting boundaries. And I called a thing, and wasn't even really like I'm being like wow, 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 wow on the teaching today because I'm so passionate about it, but have never been disrespectful or come out of pocket. But once I decided to set boundaries, it was the most profound thing. It was most painful, but most profound thing that has helped to that's helped me to be successful. And as I said in our previous live, I've had to set personal boundaries. I told you, hopefully you think it's a funny story. It wasn't funny at the time, about a neighbor who was being inappropriate, personal boundaries, professional boundaries, how I set boundaries within my practice for my own personal space. Remember, you can never be all things to all people. And then different things like that. And so when you learn to set boundaries, it extends your life. It extends your reach. You are able to have even a greater capacity. You learn who you are in a greater way. You're no longer bound by the opinions of other people, because what happens is when you're used to dealing with manipulative people who gain access to you based upon your vulnerabilities and based upon you being a giver. Once you What happens is once you start setting boundaries, they begin to identify you by a false name. So I'm going to talk to you about when you set boundaries, you will always get kickback from people who are not used to you setting boundaries. Oh, now you bougie. Now you better. And I've said this before on some of my teachings. You didn't got all these degrees and you got successful. And now you think you're better than us. And you different. It's not what it is. Y'all draining me. And I can't be my best self if I don't set a boundary. And there are some times where the demise of a relationship was that boundaries were not respected. And so it's all the love of God takes people out of your life. He's getting ready to replace you with other places with other people. But it is so important because boundaries, your purpose, your destiny, and your assignment in life is dependent upon your ability to set boundaries, your health, your wealth, your well-being, who you are as a person. There are people that will drain you dry. You don't have to go through all kinds of changes, trying to explain yourself why you're not this or you're not that. Let manipulative people be manipulative. So again, I recommended two books that I put on my floor right now. So I could pick them up. Two books, Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. Robert Townsend. I'm not necessarily using their work. I'm just a therapist and someone who's experienced this. And so I'm using my own stuff. But when I'm in session, I recommend these books to my clients because if when you don't set boundaries, it can lead to a mental health issue. All right, and then also I didn't write the book. I mean, I recommended a book called Emotional Blackmail by Dr. Susan Ford. Came out in the 90s, and she talked in depth about why people don't set boundaries, and it's for fear, obligation, guilt, and manipulation. If I look down because it's on my floor, I wrote another book some years ago called Burnout. No, Broken. And in the book, I basically, and I post a link to that as well. I talked about how I experienced emotional burnout and compassion fatigue because I didn't set boundaries and I was always being too much to too many people. I was to take care of grown people. And when I was down on my back, because when I mean down, I meant because I just burned out. Not a single person called to see how I was doing. You know why? I had been that person, the strong one for so many people. And sometimes when you're a strong person, people don't think that you need help or that you need prayer. You understand? They don't think that because they're used to taking. And so I want you to learn from my experience and the experience of some of the examples of the people that I serve. You have to position yourself. Now, again, when we do relationships, one of the criteria, it's not like a boundary, but it's more of a I won't say a criteria. A characteristic? That's what it is. A character of someone that I want to do relationship with. It's not, you can't be a taker. Like, I'm a giver. I'm still a giver. I'm not going to not be a giver, but within boundaries. But I want to connect myself with people who are not got the handout. Giver. Iron sharpens iron. And so sometimes you have to move people out of your life who are draining your emotions so that can put you in position to deal with people who have capacity for you. And everyone is in your face and smiles and says, oh, yeah, I'm going to be there with you. They're not really for you. You understand? And that means that everyone's bad, but everyone does not have capacity for you, but you have to set boundaries. All right. So we talk about why this is important. We talk about boundaries. We talk about personal and professional boundaries. We talked about different ways you identify with boundaries. I gave you some examples of my boundaries. But that's just, again, those are my boundaries based upon my experience. Okay. Your boundaries may be different based upon your experience, but remember, all healthy relationships have healthy boundaries. Doesn't mean you're weak, doesn't mean you don't trust, doesn't mean any of those things, doesn't mean you think you're bougie or you're better, or all these crazy things that people say on social media, who these non-existent experts, you know what I mean? Everyone's an expert on someone else's life. Does not mean that. Healthy relationships have healthy boundaries and level of comfortability. So again, what are your boundaries even in relationships? And I can tell you certain standards, but again, what are your boundaries? Like, if I'm in a relationship with someone, I don't put my personal business on social media, things of that nature. But if I'm in a relationship with someone, there's certain boundaries that I have. Like, there's certain boundaries that I have to protect the relationship. All right. So social media, you do want to have a social media presence, but you also want to have a social media boundary. Now, for those who may be watching this on YouTube, just take this with a grain of salt. If you're watching this or listening to this via my podcast, if you are a licensed therapist, and again, I'm a licensed therapist, I always give that clarification. I'm not a certified person. Certification means people get these certificates in 6 weeks. If they have a certificate at all, I'm not a coach. These are people that want to do therapy and they just don't want to go to school. I am a real, for real, actual, factual licensed therapist. So there are certain boundaries that we automatically have based upon our profession. Okay, so we definitely have a huge component of like separating your personal ambition from your professional. Okay, our therapists, our clients don't become our friends. We don't accept gifts from our therapy clients. Now, your consulting clients, you're not under that same umbrella. But remember, your code of ethics as it relates to your profession and your clinical license is going to be a marker for that. And that also helps me, again, as I talk to my professional boundaries about what I will not do for my clients, because I'm not all in whatever you want. I got it because I want you to like me as a therapist. Okay. And sometimes people are not going to like you when you set boundaries. And that's okay. So I said that as it relates to social media is that when you're a healthcare provider, you want to set your boundaries also based upon your profession. My clients, there are people who, before I put a disclaimer on some of my social medias, I've had clients want to DM me, people send me referrals via DM. Well, that's a violation. Okay. It's technically you're not my client quite yet, but you can't send me someone's personal information over a social media platform. Okay, if you're a real therapist, I just saw someone's flyer today, not an actual therapist, a counselor says I'll do counseling sessions via Facebook Messenger. Facebook Messenger is a publicly funded, is not a private thing. We do not do counseling sessions. That's a key indicator that that person is not our actual therapist. We do not do counseling sessions over Facebook Messenger or some of these platforms. None of them are HIPAA compliant. So again, I'm not going to go there because you just want to make sure that you are very aware of what your code of ethics and the parameters that govern a healthcare provider, aka HIPAA and confidentiality. For me, when I mention social media from this context that we're talking today, I'm talking about what people post on social media. And remember, your presence on social media is indication of who you are in some instances. If you are a gossiper, and a person that's full of drama, and you're using that to post on social media, it's an indication of who you are. Now, people can be whoever they want, an entrepreneur, whatever, and not have near a business. But remember, what you post is going to affect you in your personal and your professional life. There was a business owner that I used to follow, and I really loved her stuff. She was awesome. But every single time she would post on social media under the guise of healing, is always calling somebody out, drama, all kinds of this dramatic stuff, but then trying to give you business strategies. You just stopped your flow because you're unprofessional. There are some things that only should be talked to between your family, your friends, and your therapist, not on social media. That's not healing. That's venting, and that's calling people a spade a spade. So when we post on social media, in my opinion, the boundary is it true? Is it necessary? Is it inspiring? Or is it kind? What we have found nowadays, also unfortunately in this dispensation of disrespect, is that people will have ministries that is not God. Okay, God is not giving you a ministry of exposure and calling people out on social media. Okay, God doesn't use your ministry to confront or correct somebody on social media. Okay, there's a protocol that has to happen based upon spiritual authority. And then there's certain ways we can do that. What happens is when someone sees someone and they do that on social media, they're really trying to wane their influence, right? They're trying to get that person off their platform and have you think negative about them. God does not use people. God uses for administrative reconciliation. But even less so, there's things going on. There's a protocol to that. Okay, there's a protocol to that. That's not social media. If God gives you a word or he reveals certain things to you about certain people, most of the time, again, in my experience, he's calling you to intercede or to pray. God is not about that. Love covers a multitude of sin. But now we got people birthed through social media, and now your prophet sons, and every time something goes on with the latest celebrity, then we get on our YouTubes. Says I'm going to do this as a teachable moment, and they're using people's name because you know what? You get more followers that way. That's not God. Let me give you an example. I know who Noah was, right? You know Noah was a drunk. Let me tell you how what happened. I'm looking at my time because I got another client in like 30 minutes. I'm going to try to knock this out in 30 minutes. Noah, y'all know what happened to Noah. The flood, the whole thing, the ark, the animals, two of a kind. Y'all got it, right? I'm going to post the scriptures below. Well, after all that had happened, Noah got toe up from the flow up. I mean, he was toe up. He blacked out, toe up. Blacked out, toe up. Got so toe up, he was naked. He was blacked out. And he was somewhere on somebody's floor. Now, how did I know he was a drunk? Samaria, because that's a strong word. Well, most of the time if you ever work in substance abuse or recovery, right? The first time you drink, you take a few sips, but you don't really get shown up, toe up, blacked out, drunk, you're naked somewhere on somebody's floor. There's a progression to this, okay? So Noah has a son. He has 3 sons. He has 1 son. So one of the sons walks up, sees Noah on the floor. He done drank so much, he's blacked out, and he's naked. Son sees him, says, "My goodness, look at Dad." Goes back out, doesn't get a cover, then comes out, goes and gets his brothers. His brothers then cover Noah's nakedness. That's what they do. The brother that found the infraction, is cursed. And his lineage is cursed to this day because his motive was exposure. His motive. Now, didn't say Noah was right. Was Noah right to be drunk out, passed out, he was dead wrong. That was sin. You don't do that, Noah, after God has helped you out in such a powerful way and saved you, and you were considered a righteous man. You don't get drunk and you don't lay on the floor naked anywhere. But the son that found it and exposed it was cursed, because his motive was not covering sin or reconciling it. His motive was exposure. There's another scripture, New Testament, because let's go New Testament, Samaria, says that there's nothing hidden that's not going to be revealed. So what you do in the dark, it's going to come to light. However, there is nobody from Genesis to Revelations that God ever used as the exposure ministry. You can't correct somebody that's not your authority. And now what we see within the body of Christ is this foolery going back and forth, because some of y'all don't even read your Bible. So let's go back to social media. What are your boundaries? Okay. And so my boundary is this. I don't listen to that stuff. I don't invest in it. I don't hang out with people who do that. One of my personal boundaries is if you're a gossiper, I'm not for you. The only time I listen to other people's stories, because that's what I'm trained to do, but I'm also obligated by laws that govern HIPAA, confidentiality, all those kinds of things, is in the context of therapy. And let's be clear, your clients are not coming to you to gossip about someone else. They can do that with their friends. They're coming to you. They're coming to you for healing. And that's when I may listen to stuff. But anybody, I listen. If you know me, that's why people don't be blowing my phone up like that. If you know, I had somebody a couple of years ago try to gossip to me about somebody else that they didn't know. This not a client. Because I can. It's not a client. Oh, I heard about such and such. I heard about who is such and such. Now I was real nice and cordial about that. I was like, oh no, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about such. We're not doing that. But had they kept going with it, I'd have read you your whole rights. It would have been the whole problem. Because then I'd have called it out. I'd have called out that spirit. You're really jealous of that person. That's why you're trying to gossip about them. And your issue, your timing is inappropriate. And the spirit behind that, or why you looking at someone else, is because you're not at that person's place. That person is successful in their own way. They can do what they want. You're jealous of that. I didn't do that. Because like I said, I don't say everything comes to my mind. But if you try it, I don't play with the gossip at all. At all. And like I said, in my 16 plus years of being a therapist, your clients do not come for you. They do not come to you to gossip. They may have had some experiences with like family members and parents. And a lot of times they don't even tell you the person's name, so you wouldn't know anyway. But they're really covering, even if like church hurt or something like that, they're literally coming to you because they need to heal. And that's the agenda. Okay. A lot of times people who do the social media stuff, they're very, they're almost like new baby Christians. So they have a lot of zeal and not a lot of wisdom. But you got to read your Bible. From Matthew to Revelation, or Genesis to whatever. God ain't never, ever used a minister to expose somebody. And authority recognizes authority, and respect recognizes respect. Okay? And God calls people to hold us accountable. And I get that, but not some random person on social media that you probably ain't never even met. Or even if you have met them, you're not in that relationship to the point where you could come at that person like that, even if they're wrong. Because a lot of times they are wrong. But how we go about it, now you're talking about someone. Now every YouTube video that you have now is about someone else's going on in someone else's life. It's like you almost like you got to fight. Anyway, don't do that, y'all. When you're growing in Christ, don't do that. All right, we got 20 more minutes. I got to get through this. All right. Okay. Oh, so other things about from me on social media. Again, I'm gonna use myself as example. Like I said, I tell you personal things for context of a testimony, things I've gone through, what my area of expertise are. I think that you, in my personal opinion, should leave your personal life off of social media. And I know these YouTubers, that's you do what you want, YouTubers and things of that nature, and they have all these numbers. When you give people access to your personal life, then you give people permission to comment on things that they should never be commenting on. So it's okay to remain private. Now, secret and private are not the same thing. Secret, nobody knows what you. Private means you keep people who are not out of your business, basically. There's a difference. Secret means hidden. Private means it's a part of wisdom. All right. So let's talk about more boundaries. But again, let me go back to that because I'm looking at my notes, y'all. So you just want to have integrity about how you show up on virtual platforms. My therapist having, like, I can't be a healing therapist, and I'm talking about, and I see. Let me tell you what. When you post something on social media, right? Everybody can see it. So you can't tell me you are a trauma therapist or you're a healing therapist or whatever it is that you do, or you're in ministry and you are subscribed to gossip sites. No one wants to come. You know how people are not coming for you to therapy because you're messy. My fellow therapist, if you are messy on social media, it is a reflection of your character and you almost stop your own success. There's certain business platforms that you will never walk in, even if you are a business person, because you are messy on social media. You just are. They're not going to say anything. You think you're doing fine because you still got numbers, but people are not investing in people who are messy. And particularly, you're trying to say you're about healing, but you always got drama. So I would encourage, even if you are a therapist and you show up on spaces like this, YouTube and Instagram and whatever else is going on, make sure it's about what you're passionate about, even your profession. And then I've got to set boundaries as far as like tell people in advance. I put it up in I will not respond. I do not communicate via DMs again, because I'm a healthcare professional. But remember, how you show up in that presence is going to mean something. And even though you don't know you've missed opportunities, I'm telling you, there's certain organizations, there's certain other businesses, there's certain business owners, there's certain contracts, there's certain things that you will never get because you are messy on social media. Now, you can't help once you have a name known to yourself how people come at you. You can't help that all the time, but you can help how you show up there. I had another colleague, and we don't like talk personally, but she said, I don't Google myself. Okay. I just don't, because people come at you. So you just have to set boundaries in that way, because it's gonna show up. Okay. So remember, other points about boundaries are boundaries cannot be assumed or implied. Don't assume that common sense is common sense. You may think it's common sense based upon how you were raised, but common sense is not so common. Okay. So it has to be stated. And I said in our last teaching is that when you don't speak up, you can't assume anything. You can't hold people to something that you have not clearly stated. Okay. And that's in any situation. Remember, people show up based upon difference in their previous experience, how they were raised, different things like that. And so you have to just state those boundaries. It can't be implied. You can't assume, well, this is just common sense. Common sense, it's just not so common. All right. Boundaries should be stated up front, and sometimes you have to reiterate them. Hey, do you remember? Now, I'm of the persuasion of this. If you got to keep saying the same thing to the same person over and over again, you may have to reevaluate that situation. But sometimes people generally forget. Sometimes people are just so used to certain patterns, they don't remember. But you can discern someone who's genuinely like, oh, okay, well, they're trying to get to know you versus someone that they don't really care. Okay. If this is your first time, this is what I tell my clients all the time. If this is your first time really starting to set boundaries, remember, it's almost like your heart muscle has to grow to that point. It's almost like I had someone I was working with years ago. She said, almost like I change your nature almost, because you're so used to being yes and yes and yes and sure and yes and yes, yes. You almost have to feel like you have to change your nature. However, you can. But remember, when you are renegotiating your boundaries, you should expect negative feedback. Now, I'm not telling you to just go and get discouraged. I'm just telling you that you get the accusatory, wait a minute, what? But you said, but you love me, and I love, and alligator tears, and I don't what, that kind of foolery. You're too sensitive and all that kind of stuff, and now you think you're better. Now you're so holy and endowed. Just random stuff that is not in line with your character. But again, that's that manipulation. But again, they're not used to setting boundaries, but you have to set them. Sometimes you have to reiterate them, and then you have to maintain consequences. If you do this, then I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to do this. You have to follow through. If you are saying, please don't do that, and then you keep going back on your word, then they don't take you seriously either. Okay. Remember, gaslighting or lack of effective communication is not a boundary. Okay. So gaslighting, what did I say that? No, I didn't mean that word. Not gaslighting. So gaslighting is not a form of gaslighting is not a form of a boundary, but also ghosting. That's what I meant to say. I put gaslighting, but I meant ghosting. So ghosting or lack of communication is not a clear boundary. So you just have people who just don't show up one day, or they just don't talk, or they just stop. That is not a boundary. You understand what I'm saying? That's not a boundary just because you just ghost somebody. Like if you ghost me, just keep at it. If you can't communicate, keep that same energy. Because to me, I feel like ghosting is a form of manipulation. We just gotta assume that you have a problem because now all of a sudden you don't show up, or you show up but you got an attitude problem. Why you answering my phone call? Well, I'm fine. Like we got to figure you out. Like no one needs to use. We should have to use spiritual gifts of discernment and word of knowledge to figure out what you're offended by. If you ghost somebody, means you just lack communication. You're probably passive aggressive. Stop ghosting people. Tell them how you feel. If they don't respond, then you give them consequences. But don't just ghost somebody because that's just ignorant. Anyway, I'm on one today, y'all. I don't know what happened. I had like some coffee or something. Oh God. Okay. All right, 50 a few more minutes. I gotta go. Okay, ready? So boundaries must be communicated in every area of your life. Boundaries. When you meet someone for the first time and maybe you like that person and y'all feeling each other, or you want to do relationships. Again, boundaries. Like, what are your boundaries? I've counseled couples who, again, every time something goes wrong, don't, you call it random friends. Your friends are not your unofficial counselors at all times. Now, if you got a friend that's really a very wise person that could be neutral, that's different. But every time you have a problem within your relationship, you're gonna call somebody that is that they talk a trash about your spouse. It's just boundaries. How do we handle conflict? Who do we go to? Who's the LMFTs? I'm not a licensed marriage and family therapist. That's not my credentialing. But you can go to a licensed marriage and family therapist. You could go to your, a pastor or your spiritual leaders that are on neutral ground. That's going to give you wisdom. But every time you have an issue within your family or your relationship, and you go call your cousin and she, what I'm saying, that's just, it gets real messy when you start really trash talking your spouse to other people. You should have a boundary of who are the wise advisors within our lives that we can call. You understand? But sometimes just talk to each other. Effective communication will get you so much further in life. Okay. No one should have to. I said this about gaslighting. I mean, what I say, ghosting. No one should have to observe your non-ability to communicate and then assume how you feel. So you don't communicate, and then we gotta assume. I gotta go to God. I had somebody who ghosted me, right? And I was like, how the heck you grown? You are 40. You ain't learned communication skills? Like who raised you? Like, I don't understand. Okay. And I'm quiet. Like I'm talking now because I have to in my career points. I like to listen more than I like to talk. Well, if you ever meet me in real life, I'm a very quiet and discerning person. You understand? But I know how to communicate. I'm just more of a quiet person. But I'm like, how the heck you ghost me? And you didn't say nothing. And I didn't even really like you like that. But I would just say you ghosted me. Me? I don't know where I was going at with that. But the point is, it was just so odd that you're 40, but you can't communicate. It's cool. I interpret. So anyway, because I am a woman of God and I have spiritual gifts, the Lord told me what was really going on with the person. And I was like, oh, okay. And I won't tell you all the details because it was personal, but God said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And there's other things that because God will tell me your stuff. Like I just don't you like I don't be like blasting it up. I just pray and intercede. The person is not gonna be someone I would do relationship with because you gotta be whole and all that good stuff. But I figured it. God told me. He said, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. And he was telling me the person was in essence was just intimidated by me, even though I'm not an intimidated person, because of how they felt about themselves as an insecurity. So sometimes ghosting is a form of insecurity. Now I'm not in the business of taking care of grown people, and you know what I'm saying. God bless you. I'm not the one that's called to walk that journey of healing with you. That's another therapist, not me. Okay, but I had to. God will tell me, and not that's you. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, remember, y'all, lying is also a red flag. Lying is a red flag. We should do another one, or passive aggressiveness as it relates to boundaries. Okay. Passive aggressiveness is not a boundary. It just shows your own insecurity. Okay. Last few things to remember, all healthy boundaries are founded on all healthy relationships are founded on healthy boundaries. And I can't remember if I said it. I think I said this in the first part one. Remember when you go to the yes, I did. Well, I will say it again. This is the second time. When you go to the beach, the water comes so far because God spoke it into existence. Okay. There should be it comes here, it goes out. It comes here, it goes out. That's a healthy boundary. Okay. When the moon and the stars don't shine at the same time. Excuse me, that don't make sense. The sun and the moon don't shine at the same time. Why? It's a boundary. Okay. The strength of your relationship, your business, all these things, your health, your emotional space, your ability to breathe, your ability to feel peace, your ability not to be stressed out and overworked and overwhelmed, all these kinds of things, and not being in the hospital, all those things, and not having headaches and high blood pressure, and just being able to live and be at peace is dependent upon your ability to set healthy boundaries. Okay. All right. Remember, we all have capacity. Last year, we all have capacity. That means doesn't matter how anointed you are, doesn't matter how fire you are, doesn't matter what you accomplish in life. Everyone has capacity. And there are times you have to say, listen, I just don't have the capacity for you. It doesn't make you weak. There is someone else who has capacity for you. It is not me. And that's okay. There's some people that are so draining. And I researched someone. I can't deal with what you got going on. I got to work through me. I got to heal me. And you, every time you call me, you got an issue. And I can't do it. You got to pray about that thing. You got to call somebody. Not me. I'm focused. I got things I got to do. I got things I got to accomplish. I can't rock with you like that. It's okay. I'm not mad at me. I don't care. I'm just not that person for you. And that's okay. For me in my personal life, you can have a bad day. You may even be able to have a bad season, but you can't have a bad life. My personal life, I don't want to be the strong one all the time. Anyway. And lastly, I think I said this at the beginning. If you have not, I know I'm kind of going late. If you haven't watched part one, because it got kind of long, watch part one. Okay, it was fun. Remember, a boundary is not a wall. A boundary is not a wall. A wall is like nobody gets in. Nobody gets in, and that is a place of brokenness that you need to work through with a therapist. Good, bad, or in between. I had someone I worked with years ago who said, like, also, you should not be a doorknob. Everybody gets their turn, if you understand what I'm saying. That's not what we're doing over here. Holiness is still right. You are not a doorknob. Everybody does not get their turn. Okay. All right. You are also not Bank of America or Truist Bank or BB&T or Wells Fargo or whatever those banks are. They are. You are not that. Okay. You are not baby Jesus. You have limitations. You are not obligated to take care of grown people. Let them say what they want to say. Oh, you're selfish. You are not obligated to take care of. Remember, there's one of you, Samaria, me. How many of them? Samaria don't want to take care of grown people. Not grown people. Ever. Okay. So recognizing and being clear of who you are and what you are gives you space. The Holy Spirit will strengthen you. God will be with you. And it helps you to let go of toxic people so that God can put people in your life who have capacity and you can continue to focus and run your life. You cannot do that without boundaries. All right. So my hope is that those who come alongside and watch this, hopefully I've given you some tidbits of things that you can do. But you if you want it, you got to get it, but you got to set boundaries. If you want that business to grow, you got to set boundaries. If you want healthy relationships, you got to set boundaries. If you want sustaining friends, sustaining relationships, you got to set boundaries. And the people that have a problem with you for setting those boundaries and maintaining them, those are the people that the Holy Spirit and their character is clearly telling you that they don't belong in your space. Also, finally, about boundaries, you cannot disrespect or dishonor someone else's boundaries and then expect people to expect yours. Remember, you reap what you sow. So if you sow dishonor, you're going to get dishonor. If you sow disrespect, you can get disrespect. So you can't say, these are my boundaries, but you don't respect other people's boundaries. Boundaries is a two-way street. Okay. And they're non-negotiable. All right, y'all, checking me out. Time is up. www.drsamariacolbert.com. That's my website. drsamariacolbert.com. My counseling website. And I do encourage y'all. I know I practice in the state that I'm licensed. That's a boundary. But if you're a licensed therapist, you listen to this via my podcast. I always tell people, go to the website and get some insight. Again, it's not going to be universally applicable because, as you know, the laws that govern our profession and the standards like forms and things of that nature may be different depending upon your local state, but it's still a good resource for you just to have a visual of how I do integration. So that's www.kingdomcreativecounseling.com. And if you want to, you can go to my training website, www.trainingchristianleaders.com. All right. God bless. We'll be back another day, another time. Another banger. Bye.